Okay, so this program is the post-exercise static stretching. So these would be a stretch you would do after you exercise. You've already been warmed up, ready to do your workout. These are things to do afterwards. Now, if you have a lot of aches and pains, these could be things you could use on a daily basis. You don't necessarily have to be that warm to do them, but they're really good if you have a job where you have to sit a lot, which are most people. You have just general aches and pains. These are things that kind of release muscles that are typically pretty tight. So there's two parts to this program. One is the short program, which is 6 stretches, and the other is a bit longer. It's 3 more stretches. So it's a variety of stretches that will really help enhance overall function of your muscles, but that are very simple to do and again require no equipment. So you're going to be getting the PDFs of these, so I know they might not be as clear as you can see. I'm going to kind of try to go over them as much as I can to explain them as we go along. Okay, so the first one, so this, if we're going to call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, number 1 is a hip oblique. So what this is actually you're crossing your leg across your body using the weight of your leg, whether it's bent or straight, to stretch your hip outside of your thigh and your low back. A lot of people's low backs get locked up in a rotational axis, so you can't twist as much, your back gets real tight. This kind of stretches those muscles and releases those. Sometimes you get some popping and cracking from your SI joints and little, almost like a mini chiropractic adjustment. If you go to a chiropractor, they're actually going to do this stretch where they kind of go across and adjust one segment at a time. But this is a way to just kind of relax those muscles, a lot of tension we hold in our low backs and hips. Now this one, all these stretches are going to say 30 seconds as you go along. And basically the reason for that is this, is that on average, about 30 seconds or 20 to 25 seconds is where your muscles start to relax. As long as you're not inducing pain and you're not holding your breath. Okay? If you're doing things right, you're relaxing and just letting the muscle stretch, about 20 to 30 seconds is where they're going to release. Okay? You can continue them on beyond that point and you'll get a little bit more benefit out of it, but don't push to the point where you're getting pain. If you're getting pain, your nervous system is going to revert that and it's going to tighten that muscle up. It's not going to let it relax and lengthen. So what you want to focus on is going to the point where you feel a stretch, and as it starts to release, push a bit beyond that stretch just before the point of where you're starting to feel pain. Okay? So the first one again is a hip oblique, making sure you're breathing. You're actually using the weight and gravity of your leg to stretch your outside of your hip, outside of your thigh, and your low back. So you hold that to the side for about 30 seconds, let it release, and then you switch to the other side. Number 2 is going to be hip flexors. So your hip flexor is a muscle that attaches to the front or top, actually in the back of your pelvis, inside and the front, and then it pulls down into here. So it's actually flexing your hip, and it's a muscle that is the most commonly tight muscle in most people, especially if you're sitting a lot. When you're sitting, that muscle is very short and tight. When we stand up, it doesn't like to pull away from that, so it tends to stay very short. So what this stretch does, it's called a hip flexor stretch, and it's stretching this back, the leg that's back here, it's stretching and pulling, lengthening that muscle. Okay? So this position where your arms are down, you're not going to feel a ton of a stretch unless you're real tight. So what you might want to do is over time is lean your body back into your upright position, but that leg is still kind of pushed back. Some people have a lot of pain in this muscle because it's very tight and knotted up with trigger points and adhesions. This is just a general one to kind of start to release that. All right, so in this stretch, you're stretching this back, or the front of this back leg. Okay? Okay, number 3. So this is a stretch for the abs because you can see here you're kind of rounding and stretching across. Your back's actually being kind of scrunched together and tightened up. So this is a stretch for your abs. A lot of people with back problems, if you look at them, they're kind of hunched over and their abs are short. Okay? So their back is overstretched. So they're kind of rounded and hunched like this. So their back is overstretched like a bow and their abs are tight. So for someone like that, you don't want to build more tension on already short and tight abs. You want to get them into an upright position and strengthen their back and their core and their abs at the same time. So all this is your core. It's not just your abs or six-pack. So this is kind of stretching, reaching your back. If you had like a Swiss ball or physio ball, a big ball, you could arch your back over it as long as you were safe. That's the same kind of thing. You're going to feel a nice stretch in the front of your abs, right? So about 30 seconds, hold that, just let it release. This next one here, number 4, it says upper leg or quadriceps, all right? So this one is also a hip flexor stretch, but now we're involving more of the other portions of your quads, which will help release a lot of tension. We have a lot of tension in our quads simply because we sit too much. This one specifically is meant to kind of release that, all right? So by pulling your foot, if you can't reach back and hold your foot, sometimes you can put it on the back of a chair or up on a low table as long as you're balanced. It's going to help to stretch the tight muscles. You also get a little bit hip flexor, like I said, in there, but really your quads. Okay, so number 5 and number 6 are very similar, but a bit different. So they're both using a doorway. So this is to kind of open up your chest. A lot of people are very rounded posture like this. Again, short abs, overstretched back. Their shoulders are rolled in like this, and they're kind of hunched. So this is meant to open your body up and pull everything back in position. The first one here, which is actually or stretch number 5, says pectorals. So this one, you're actually going to be standing in a doorway and kind of step through it and let the doorway kind of, by pushing in with your knee, kind of pull your shoulders back a bit, which is stretching your chest. All right, so pectoral is going to be your chest muscles. And the other version of this, you're going to go a bit higher and step through the door, which is going to go more into your lats and your armpit. Those muscles are typically very tight. They're what are called internal rotators, so they kind of clamp down, and they affect a lot of things negatively if they're really tight. So this kind of releases them, opens up your rib cage, helps with breathing, helps with posture, all that good stuff. The second one just says chest stretch, and this is the same kind of thing, but instead of being on the back side of the door, you're going to step through the doorway. Now, a lot of my clients over the years have had trouble doing this one if they're really tight. So if you can't step through the doorway, I mean, most doors are average width, but you might want to use a wider one if you're real tight. If not, the one thing you can do is this. Use one hand on the door frame and then step and kind of turn away from it. This way you can do one side at a time if you're really tight. It doesn't have to be at the same height as your shoulder. You can go lower. You'll feel a stretch either way if you're pulling on it. But that's going to be stretching your chest or pectorals like the other one, but the other one's going to be on the back side of the door. This one you're going to step through the doorway. If you don't have a doorway or anything like that, you can actually put your hand on a wall and turn away from it, and you'll feel that same kind of stretch. So these are the basic 6 that should be done after your workout's done. It's part of your cool down. You're not just going from exercise to stopping doing anything. You could shift into these, and they're very effective. Like I said, even like, let's say you get up in the morning, you're real tight and achy. These are great stretches too, because a lot of people actually are very tight after they sleep because they sleep in these weird kind of contorted positions. These 6 are 6 essential stretches that work really well to kind of release that. So the next series are 9, and this would be the long program, or longer. Oh, sorry, this one is 12, not 9. So this one has some of the similar features or stretches from the other, but it's a bit longer. All right, so it has the same one starting off. Now the sequence to do these, this one especially being 12, you want to go from left to right, similar to the other programs we had gone through. Shrink this a bit. Okay, so this one is the same kind of sequence, but the main thing I did in this program is you can see in the beginning here, you're on your back, you're on your stomach, and then you go into standing. Okay, so that's one thing that I did in this to kind of make it flow better and sequence it properly. So it goes from on your back to on your stomach to standing. So you're not kind of getting up and getting down. It just kind of flows well together that way. So just like the other program, let me zoom in on this a bit. And I'll change it so we can see just the other. We'll focus on the first 6. So the first one is same as the basic 6. It's basically going to be a hip oblique, stretching across the body, releasing the low back and hips. The second one is going to be the inner thigh or groin. So that when you put your feet together, let your knees kind of go out to the side like a butterfly and just kind of rock left to right. It helps you release the hips. Now again, all these are going to be about 30 seconds long. They don't have to be exactly 30 if you're feeling a good stretch or you feel like you can go a little bit longer. It's not like the exercise where it's so sequenced. It's something you have to kind of feel how your body is adapting to this. All right, the next one is basically going to be for a muscle called your piriformis, and it's a pyramid-shaped muscle inside your hip. This is one that is very tight. If you have any sciatic problems, any piriformis syndrome it's called, these are going to be affected by this muscle. So this one you're actually going to kind of turn your leg. The other version of this is a way you can adapt it, is you can actually take that ankle, put it across your knee and just kind of let your knee go out to the side. Kind of look like a shape of a 4. Okay, so if you do the 4 shape, letting your foot kind of cross your thigh, opposite thigh, and just let the weight kind of stretch that, you're going to feel a lot. This is a muscle that is very painful. If you have a lot of trigger points or knots in it, trying to break that up can be quite painful. All right, so the next one, which is number 4, is going to be a quad stretch. You're going to be on your stomach, kind of pulling your foot back towards your glutes. Now, if you can't reach it with your hand, what you can also do is wrap a towel around it and pull with a towel. You can use a resistance band as long as it doesn't release on you, and just kind of pull it towards you. Okay? You can also do that when standing if you need to. You can put it on the top of the table as long as you're stabilized and let it stretch. Okay, the next one is kind of a yoga pose. It's going to be stretching more of your lats and back. So it's going to be up and down this way, really lengthen. And this one, as you get more of a stretch, you can kind of work your fingers out and keep kind of moving out to increase the amount of stretch on your lats. And it really helps to kind of improve your posture because your lats get very tight. So by lengthening them and stretching them, it helps release a lot of that tension. Same one as before on the 6 that we had. This is going to be stretching, again, your abs. It's not going to be stretching your back. It's going to release that tension if you have that tight posture. Number 7 is the hip flexor stretch again. And again, this is going to be stretching the front hip flexor on the back leg. All right? So it's going to lengthen that muscle. That, again, is one of the tightest muscles on most people because we sit too much here. The next one is going to be a lower leg stretch for your gastroc or your soleus. Those are basically 2 muscles that are in your lower leg or calf. And they're typically pretty tight, especially if you wear thick heeled shoes. They're going to shorten your Achilles tendon. You're going to get a lot of tension there. Be sure that your heel on your back foot stays down. If your heel comes up, you don't feel any stretch. If your heel stays down, you're going to feel that pull in your calf. And just ease into it because a calf strain or pull is one of the worst injuries because you can't really get off your feet effectively. So just be careful and just kind of ease into it. Don't really force that. And all these stretches, again, like we talked about with stretching, don't induce pain and make sure you're breathing and relax. Don't like, you can't fight the stretch. It's got to relax by itself. Okay, the next one, let me just scroll down here a bit. The next one is just basically like a forward bend. So this is going to help to release any tension in your back. You're going to go down towards the floor. Don't hold it too long down towards the floor. Some people get lightheaded and kind of tip over. Make sure your feet are at least hip width apart, maybe even a little bit wider, and just kind of relax and kind of fold into it. The next one we did before as well is going to be the pectoral stretch on the back side of the door. Again, to open up your posture. Can be low, can be medium, can be high on the door frame. If you don't have a door frame available, you can just go against a wall, just like anything like that. The next one is a chest stretch. This one you're going to step through the doorway. It's going to open up your chest, or you're going to release a lot of this inward tension or rounding of your shoulders. That one as well, you can go up higher, you can go up lower, or go down lower. If you need to, you can just use a wall, or if you're real tight, just use one side at a time and stretch one side, kind of turn away, and you'll feel the stretch, because that's a muscle that is, again, like your hip flexors, your chest and your lats are usually pretty tight. Now, the 12th one here, it's called a side bender, but basically what it is the upper portion of your traps is typically really tight. People have a lot of tension here. So what actually you do is you hold down your one arm. So if I'm holding down my right, I'm leaning my head to my left, toward my left shoulder. And what's doing is I feel a stretch all down here, all through my trap. Trapezius is typically a very tense, tight muscle. It can create a lot of tension headaches and pressure. So that's a muscle you really want. You're actually using the weight of your head to stretch that muscle, which is typically really tight. So those are the a bit longer stretching. And again, you could do these every day if you wanted. But this one especially, the sequencing goes from 1 till 12 because of the position you're in. So it doesn't have you standing up and getting up and down. It kind of flows really well from 1 through 12. So again, don't induce pain. Breathe through it and relax, and you'll feel those muscles loosen up over time. Now, it's not going to be a long-term effect with this type of stuff. You're going to have, over time they'll start to release, but it's a long process to allow muscles and muscle fascia to release, especially if you've ever been to physical therapy or chiropractic or massage therapy. That stuff takes a lot of work to work out. So you will get some relief from this, and over time you'll see change, but you have to consistently do this in order to see that change. So go through this program, and again, this would be after exercise, after you've completed everything. There's a 6 layout, and there's this 12 layout. There's no tracking grids with this because there's no repetitions to record. Just add it in toward the end of your program. So I hope you enjoy this, and make sure you breathe when you stretch. Thank you.